swing and a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawley-Jean.
You are listening to the Fly the W podcast. We are part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, and most importantly, review our podcast. You can follow me at Crawley's Cubs on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, Crawley's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. And you can email me at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And I got a special guest. This is his second appearance on this show. He is the talented, creative artist behind the Pop Fly print series, Daniel Jacob Horine. Daniel, how are you?
I'm good, Crawley. How are you doing?
I am doing great. And, it's funny. Last time we talked, I wanted my listeners, if you can't tell, I like Cubs memorabilia. And last time we talked, I wanted our listeners to kind of, learn a little bit about how you got into this. And so if you want to just kind of maybe tell some of the people that haven't heard of you before, what are Pop Fly prints and how did this all get started?
Pop Fly prints it's a weekly long-running art project that's been going for about 5.5 years now, almost every single week. I do a new baseball themed print, similar to a comic book, 7 by 10.5 inches. It's similar comic book language as a comic book cover, and it's available for 1 week only. And after that week is over, the print run is locked and it's on to the next piece. And I've been doing that almost every week for 5.5 years. We are 232 pieces in, and the piece we're going to talk about today is piece number 232.
Now, I'll tell you where I got hooked on this. I got hooked on it one time. I'm in an autograph show, and I'm in line with, to get something signed by the Hawk, Andre Dawson. Mm-hmm. And I am sitting there and saying to myself, my God, what is that thing? And I take a look at this, and this is it right here. You could see this right here, the comic book like you talked about. Mm-hmm. This is the Hawk signed by Andre Dawson in beautiful gold. I love the gold on the blue. I don't know, It's a little hard to see. It's kind of in the top loader. But I said to myself, that is the most amazing idea. And, when you started doing this, it really, you never thought it was, I don't think you thought at the time it was going to get as big as it eventually got.
No, to call it a side hustle would be a stretch. It was just, here's a picture I made. Let's put it up and see what people think of it. And I'll put it up for a week and no plan, no anything. Didn't even know how much it cost to make these things. It was just ready, fire, aim. And it just a snowball downhill from there. And a little over a year later, it was my full-time job.
That is just unbelievable. And when I take a look and I think about it, there's a great Pop Fly community that has just kind of fostered out of all of mm-hmm. this. And so I get the Andre Dawson and I'm like, okay, now I'm hooked. He's got me hooked. So I'm always watching. And this is a very famous one, the Rick Monday Saves the Flag, signed by Rick Monday. And that, mm-hmm. You don't just do players, you do moments as well, like this famous moment.
Right.
And so how do you get inspiration for some of these pieces?
I just consume a lot of baseball stuff, a lot of stuff to read, a lot of stuff to listen to, a lot of stuff to watch. And I'm not sort of aimless in a way. I just consume a lot of baseball stuff, and I know that the right things, the right moments will click. And the pieces, the thing that we're going to talk about today was sort of one of those things, and where I just kind of find the right angle, find the right story, and did a piece last week about the Lost Boys, the 21 guys who played during COVID who never played again. And that just came from an idea from reading an article headline, not even the article itself. I just saw a headline and it all clicked. So just always on the lookout, scanning for just baseball stuff.
And there was a Cub on there. He was one of their top pitching prospects, Braylon Marquez. So those of you that know, I do love my prospects, and Braylon Marquez was one of them that, did that 2020 season, and he mm-hmm. never played in the majors again. And you, the way you kind of explained it was just so phenomenal. that, just when you think about your debut, and we see this a lot, they come, the families in the crowd jumping up and down, the place is roaring and cheering the first time. And those guys never got that. And it was just such a odd season, when you think about it. And, when you were making these, that was right around the COVID time. It's kind of that first year that you started.
Very much so. Even during COVID, like in 2020, and I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do a 2020 piece? Because even in that moment, whatever, in the moment, contemporaneously, I don't know the word, but like even in 2020, it was like I didn't need any reflection to know that this was super weird times for baseball. And so I wanted to do something that would kind of highlight the 2020 season, but I didn't really find the angle or the story until 5.5 years later.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because once I got hooked on the pop fly arts and got involved in the pop fly community, I started going back to all the Cubs ones. And then all of a sudden that very first year, I mean, they didn't sell like hotcakes. They don't sell like they do now. You drop them now and boom, everybody's on them. Back then, kind of, a lot of people didn't really know about it. And so one of the very, I don't want to say, it was probably, I'm trying to remember what number it is, but in the first season, Mr.
Cub. Yep.
And I cannot tell you how hard it was for me to track one of these guys down, Daniel. Thank God for the Pop Fly Facebook community, because this is number 20 out of 51. And so I just said to myself, my God, just how lucky I was to kind of get that. So now I'm sitting here and the drops happen every Sunday evening, usually. And I'm going to put up the one that is the drop for this week. So it's really important. And the reason I'm rushing to get you on here is because come Sunday evening, this is going to be retired. It's done.
All right. Yeah. We're halfway over already.
This is it right here. It is NLCS Game 6. And you did it before. You had Imagine If before. And this is the second in that series. And it says, imagine if he made the catch. And what you see, for those of you that are listening to this as the podcast, is Moises Alou against the wall. You know where I'm going with this, but he catches the ball. He catches the ball. And I see Moises has a thought bubble, says 2 outs, and what made you decide to open up this wound for Cub fans?
Well, here's the thing, and the thing that surprised me about this project is how conceptual that these can get. You think baseball art, you're not really thinking it's going to go too deep. But with this one, I felt, to me, this is not that moment. This is not the moment that we see here. I felt for a long time that I needed to do a Steve Bartman piece. He is so important to the lore of baseball. Even if you're not a Cubs fan, it's a moment. And I felt like I wanted to cover that moment. But what's really important to me is to do it with respect. I don't want to make him a villain. I don't want to make him mythological. I don't want to, like, the curse continues because of this, so I wrestled for a long time. This has been cooking for at least a couple of years, this idea, how would I treat a Steve Bartman piece? And so what I landed on was an Imagine If. It's sort of my take on Marvel's What If series. So imagine if he made the catch. And I realized that to make a Steve Bartman piece and not do any of those things, to keep it respectful, I'll imagine it in a way that, imagine Moises Alou makes the catch, and you never hear Steve Bartman's name. He gets to come in ordinary, he gets to enjoy a game, and he gets to leave ordinary. And so very much so I think and especially for Cubs fans, and I get it. I've heard a lot from Cubs fans this week. I get that the thought is, oh, he makes the catch, and maybe the Marlins don't score 8 runs, and maybe things could have been different for us then. But in my mind, it's right where that fork is, where instead of Steve Bartman getting in the way, he makes the catch. And I'm not speculating any further than that moment, but I'm thinking now, wow, what could that small moment mean for Steve Bartman? And he's on the piece, but he's just a face in the crowd. If you look just to the left of that glove, there he is, arms raised, little headphones on, Renegades baseball jersey on. You can't. It doesn't have. It doesn't. He's not even colored green. You can't notice. I mean, his turtleneck underneath, the things that make it identifiably him are gone. And that was for me what made it a Steve Bartman piece, is that he could disappear in the crowd, and even the little box score that's on the little, that's kind of the Easter egg inside the barcode there. It goes up to the 8th inning, and for the 8th, there's not a question mark. We haven't even gone on to the 8 for the 8 runs that the Marlins scored. We are just in that little micro moment where instead of zigging, we zagged, and his life is forever different.
And you and I have talked before about our loves for both comic books and baseball, and it kind of gets into that multiverse. You know what I mean? When you talk about Marvel and the multiverse, and kind of just thinking that just that butterfly effect, this guy who had been to Cubs games before and, you know, was sitting there and did what 99% of baseball fans would do, becomes part of baseball folklore. And like you said, the cool thing about the art here is he is the same color as everybody else. He blends into the crowd instead of sticking out in the crowd. And that's what, to me, kind of just blows my mind when I kind of take a look at it. And I'm going to be honest with you. It was, when I saw the piece, it is difficult. And you do hear from Cub fans. I've heard from Cub fans. I put out a video every year, commemorating that the event happened, because it happened. And people get mad at me because in my memorabilia collection, I have this exact moment, except he doesn't catch the ball. And it's signed by Dusty, and it's signed by Mark Pryor, who was the starting pitcher, and he was on the mound. Dusty was the manager, and of course, Moises himself. And people don't realize that, for me, I guess, I just love the history of the Cubs, the entire history, the good, the bad, the ugly. And that's part of it, and you're not going to get away from it. And I looked through my old photos, and this was a picture of the marquee. Now, you know, Daniel, this is old school when people didn't have camera phones. This was taken with a regular phone. So I only had limited number of pictures. I didn't take a bunch. And that day, if you remember, the Cubs are up 3-1. They have Mark Pryor, who's about to pitch, who has just had a phenomenal year, and Kerry Wood, if we needed a game 7, which of course we didn't think we would need a game 7. And, you know, it is literally like Mardi Gras there. There's a picture of me, and this is, again, 22, 23 years ago. I'm a much younger man. This is me and my wife. We were recently married. We're getting ready for game 6. and when the Cubs score and you got that lead and it's 3-1 and you're going into the 8th, you're sitting there and it was the first. I have not missed a postseason game except for one. I missed game 4 of the World Series at home at Wrigley in the 2000s. But at that time, in 2003, that was the first playoff game I had ever been to. I'd never experienced what postseason baseball was like. And being a Cub fan at that point, we hadn't had much experience in general, most people, of postseason baseball. Yeah. And so as we get to the innings and you're kind of watching, this is the old scoreboard, no Jumbotrons. You're watching as it goes, and now you're getting into the 7th. Bernie Mac sings the 7th inning stretch, and you're sitting there and you're watching this. You're saying to yourself, "Oh my God, I'm going to be here when it happens. I'm going to be here for history." And you sit there and you take a look, and Mordecai flies out for the first out, and then former Cub Juan Pierre, he'd come to the Cubs later. He ends up getting a hit. Okay, no big deal on that one. You're not gonna. He gets a double. I want to say no, not gonna panic. And then you have that out. And what I remember more than anything is all the fans are chanting 6 more outs, 6 more outs. And I had never heard that in my life. And when Mordecai when was it Mordini? I can't remember the guy from Marlins, the leadoff hitter. When he gets that first out, it goes to 5 more outs. And now I'm getting into it. I'm believing. And then the double, and then Luis Castillo comes up, and that's that moment. And where my seats were, I was on the upper deck, third base side, so I don't have a good view. There's no jumbotrons, nothing. I don't have a good view of what's going on. And all of a sudden, you just hear this collective but it wasn't like it was over. It was just like he could have had. Nobody really was upset. At that point. And then all of a sudden, the double play ball that goes through Alex Gonzalez's legs, all of a sudden, you said it just on. It's just, I remember Rodriguez, now Derek Lee, by the time it's done, 8 runs on the board. And with a 3-1 lead, you're now down 3 of the 8th. It was running. It was you couldn't have imagined it. And it just were hit by Mason or something. And what I remember more than anything is that, you're sitting there and the game's over, but as you're sitting in that 8-run inning, there were old TVs up in the back of Wrigley, and everyone's kind of turning around, and Fox is playing it over and over because it's on Fox Sports. And then people that were in the bars, there's all these people on the streets, but a lot of them came out of the bars, and the bars had the game. That's when people started chanting, asshole, asshole to Steve Bartman. And people start throwing beers at him, and he had to get a police escort out of there. He didn't want to leave, and the cops are like, you need to leave. And they snuck him out of there. And ESPN did a great documentary called Catching Hell about this whole situation. But, we thought, okay, that really sucked. It was stunning. We'll get him in game 7, and Kerry Wood hits a home run, and Wrigley's shaking, and it's going to happen. And it didn't. And I got to tell you, as a Cubs fan, all of a sudden, walking out of game 7, game 7 sucked, but game 6 was the one you knew let get away from you. And so that when you watch a team, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, Daniel, when you watch a team clinch in the postseason on your home field, it gets quiet as a pin drop. And I just remember hearing them, the Marlins, cheering. I could hear them cheering as they're jumping on each other and piling up over by the pitcher's mound. And that moment haunted me. It really, truly haunted me, and it's weird because you get to this moment where my dad was 40 years old when the Cubs first made it in the postseason. Right. And he was in his 70s when they finally won it all. But there is a part where you're kind of laugh, ha ha ha, we're going to see the Cubs win it all. And then all of a sudden there gets to be this moment where you're like, maybe I'm not going to see it in my lifetime. Maybe it won't happen. Because there's a lot of people that didn't see it. And so when that ball by Mike Martinez, he hits that number, it goes to Chris Bryant, who throws it to Anthony Rizzo, puts his hands in the air. When that moment happened for Cub fans all over, it was just absolutely amazing. I was there that night when they brought this trophy out, and the place just went nuts. And I was lucky. I was one of 20 people to give a ring to a Cubs fan, a Cubs player from that year. So I gave it to Miguel Montero, who had would end up being the game-winning hit in game 7. He also had a big grand slam in game 1. But I thought when the Cubs won it all, that memory of 2003 would finally disappear and just be gone. But there are times, Daniel, where I do get into what you printed. Imagine if, what if, what if thing. What if that team had everything, Daniel? It had power hitters. They weren't that good of a team in 2003. They were good. They were a little bit above 500, but they make a trade at the trade deadline. They get Kenny Lofton and Aramis Ramirez from the Pirates for Bobby Hill. So you get a leadoff hitter, one of the all-time great leadoff hitters. You get another power bat. They got Randall Simon. They picked him up at the trade deadline. And that's when that team just all of a sudden took off, and they felt like a team of destiny. And then you got to face the Braves, who we were all heartbroken because of this guy, Greg Maddux, Mad Dog. He was pitching for the Braves at that time. We beat them, and we're thinking we're going to win. We got Moises Alou. We got Slam and Sammy Sosa. I mean, what else could you need? I still sometimes wonder if that 2003 team, like if you would have put them up against the 2016 Cubs, who would win? I still wonder sometimes if the 2003 Cubs, and people are going to think this is sacrilegious, but this is where we get into the what ifs. I still sometimes think, what if the Cubs, what if he did make this? Because that would have been, if you remember, this is 2003. The other on the ALCS was Yankees versus Red Sox. And the Red Sox hadn't broken their curse at that time, the curse of the Bambino, which you did a piece on. And so if the Cubs would have won, and if Boston would have won, someone would have ended their curse. As it turns out, the team that nobody wanted to see, the I'm being facetious. There were some Marlins fans that wanted to see it, but if you asked the execs at Fox, what would you rather have, Cubs versus Boston to break the longest curse in baseball, or Yankees Marlins? I think we all know what everybody wanted to see in the baseball world, and so it really is fun, Daniel, and you have made this hobby so much fun. And there is, like I said, a Facebook community, a Pop Fly Facebook community, and you're a big part of that too. You interact with the fans, you talk to the fans, and what is that? What have you learned from the community? Are you surprised at how just robust it is, and what a sense of community exists there?
Yeah, it's attracted the best folks on the planet, salt of the earth, that group, and it's truly a joy. It's what keeps me hopeful about social media, is that group in there, and just it's 6 years ago I was my own best collector, had everything I ever made, but and to have my work in so many collections, and people be passionate about it is still very novel. And it's something I do not take for granted for a second. So I am superbly grateful for all the support in this, particularly that group there. That's like that is the core right there.
And I'm not going to get mad at you, but you did get recognized by the Brewers, and you were in Miller Park. I know that the team up in the north. But Daniel, I don't know if you have seen, but the national show is going to be in Chicago this year. The Yankees are going to be in town. Maybe, just maybe, it'd be great to have you come out to Wrigley Field and spend some time with us in the bleachers.
I would love to. Wrigley is one of my bucket list stadiums. Never been there. Would absolutely love to be there. And I know my son would love a plane trip. So maybe you'll see us in Chicago this summer.
That would be great. And I know, you're always kind of coming up with new ideas, and there's so many, like I said, last time we talked, I pitched you some Cub ideas, and I know there's just so many teams and so many people want you to do it. It just, with baseball's history, it just really, truly seems like you have an endless well that you can tap from and come up with just these wonderful ideas.
Well, it's been fun to be able to have the opportunity. Thank you. And it's been fun to have the opportunity and the trust to kind of tell different stories, rather than here's my favorite player with a baseball bat. It's allow me to meander a little bit and think conceptually about these things and what they could mean or could have meant, or looking at something in a different lens. It's been such a joy, and that really deepens the well to draw from when you can go beyond just here's my favorite player with the bat.
Yeah, it's just some of the creative stuff. And, there are some people that collect every Pop Fly print. It's just amazing. Like I see their man caves, and it's literally filled with every print. And, I just got too much Cub stuff here that I couldn't do every print. I would love to, but, I just don't have the wall space. But even just as a baseball fan, just kind of going through, the Big Sexy, that one still makes me laugh when you got Bartolo Colon, or, this is Cubs adjacent, but Babe Ruth calling his shot in 1932, and seeing some of those moments that you captured. It's just a lot of fun. And Daniel, I appreciate your work, and I love watching this movement grow, and just wish you continued luck and success in your future endeavors. And hopefully those endeavors include something similar to what you got to do with the Milwaukee Brewers, making those packs, and those were huge, right?
They were that was remarkable. That was remarkable. So super grateful. Now I want to do it for 29 more teams.
Well, I'm going to work on getting it for Wrigley, because I'm nothing if I am not a little bit selfish. And it's funny. I got Mason Watts right here. He's a avid listener. He's somebody that he has his own art that he's starting now, and he's just a young man starting his own art.
Awesome.
What would you say to someone like Mason, who's into following his dreams and creating art of his own?
Oh man, it took me 40 years to learn this. So learn it when you're young. Just get busy. Don't wait for inspiration. Work inspires work. Even this is I practice what I preach. Even if I don't know what to do, I will still keep drawing. I'll just draw a picture of a baseball player or anything. And so I won't let the pen stay idle. And while I'm working, that will not only keep you sharp, but keep you good and get your skills better, but but it truly will inspire you. And that lightning bolt very rarely comes to strike you in the head and give you the great idea that you're waiting for. It's just, there's a quote, and I say it often, but there's a quote by one of my favorite artists. His name is Chuck Close. He says, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get busy. And that's the way of it. That's I absolutely believe that 100%, and done is better than perfect. So just throw your arms around that idea, and you're golden.
I absolutely love it, Daniel. Tell our listeners, if they don't follow you already, where can they follow your work, and where can they be part of the Popfly community?
Sure. It's Popfly Pop Shop is the main site, popflypopshop.com. If you go there, every Sunday we have one retiring and one dropping. And pretty much in every social media platform, if you at Popfly Pop Shop, you'll find me there.
And again, they're creative, they're fun, and you are running out of time if you are looking to get this 2003 NLCS Game 6 with Moises Alou jumping and catching that ball. It's a great one. I bought it instantly, and I know a lot of other friends that have done the same. Daniel, you're an inspiration, and thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you so much, Crawley. And thank you everyone listening out there.
It's all over.